Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everyone today? As she just said, I am the president of the Will P.D. Ferguson Bar Association. It is the local Black Lawyers Association here from Miami-Dade County. And I just wanted to just give you guys a few words and just a background about me. When I grew up, I had three influences, and they were all Michaels. One was Michael Jordan, one was Michael Jackson, and the third was Michael Evans. Now, Michael Jordan, as you know, basketball player, elite, just, tops in this field. He was the man. I couldn't play basketball, so I knew that wasn't an aspiration for me. Some people get picked last for basketball. I didn't get picked at all. So I knew that my limitations in that area were quite severe. Now, Michael Jackson, I don't have to talk about Michael Jackson. I grew up seeing him on TV. When he came on, it was an event for our family. We sit there. I had three brothers. Can you imagine 4 boys in the middle of the room trying to imitate Michael Jackson at the same time? Yeah, our furniture didn't survive much. But, I knew that I was not going to go in that field. And then there was Michael Evans. And Michael Evans was the youngest son on the show Good Times. He was very vocal about how he felt about the world that he was living in. He was very cognizant of the limitations that the world put on him and in his family. And he also knew that he could change the world in which he lived in. And that struck a chord with me as far as the world that I lived in. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis has a great history. It also has a not so great history. It is the place where Dr. King was shot, and we have the Lorraine Motel turned into the Civil Rights Museum there. So I grew up as the first generation of the effects of the Civil Rights Movement. I know you guys are doing the math, trying to see how old I am, so we're going to skip on and talk about what we do now. The Wilkie Ferguson Bar Association is in its 40th year this year. It was created when a group of lawyers here in Miami-Dade County told themselves, you know what, we are stronger together. Our efforts are greater as a collaborative than doing things individually. And for 40 years, the Wilkie Ferguson Bar Association has been there advocating for our community and for the lawyers in our community. Now, when I was a young man in law school trying to figure out how I was going to navigate my way, I didn't check into the local bar associations. I didn't check out the local bar organizations. And as you are considering your law career and how to navigate those routes, I would encourage you to check into the bar organizations, check into the legal organizations that are available to you in whatever city that you decide to go to law school in. Because number one, the participation is free for law students. Usually you don't have to pay money to join, you don't have to pay money to get on the newsletter, and you don't have to pay money to go to the events. Number two, at most of the events they serve food. Okay? I remember going to law school, and you know what? Peanut butter is just not a friend of mine anymore because I ate so much because that's all I could afford back then. So at these events, there are usually food, and then you have number three, access. As you're trying to figure out what it is that you want to do, what field of law that you want to practice, you want to talk to as many resources as you can. Usually there is also liquor at these events, and people like to talk after they've had one or two. Sometimes after 3 or 5, but that's another story. So when you are looking to see what you want to do with your career and how to go about it, these are great ways to get in touch with people who are out there doing what you want to do. And so that when you go to these events, you have the opportunity to, number one, look at the firms that are practicing in those areas. Number two, look at the people who are practicing in those firms who are doing what you want to do, and go up and talk to them. I see a lot of law students come to these networking events, and they'll gather in a little corner, and they'll talk about what's going on in law school, and they'll talk about their tests, and they'll talk about the next person. No, you can talk to those people at school. You're there to network, okay? You can talk to them after you finish networking, because that's what you're there to do. You're there to, number one, meet people, And number two, let people meet you. Now, every time I go to an event, you know what, I give people the opportunity to see what a wonderful person I am. I go up to as many people as I can, meet as many people that I don't know, and I talk to them. Because when it's time for you to apply for jobs, when it's time for you to apply for those internships, you have a leg up because you've already met people. You already know what they do, and more importantly, they know you and the type of person that you are. So take advantage of those opportunities. Number one, there's free. Number two, there's food. Number three, there is you. Introduce yourself to these people who are doing the jobs that you want, and when it comes time for you to actually apply for those jobs, to apply for those internships, you already have the advantage of not having to introduce yourself because you've already done so. They know who you are, they recognize you, and they will be more inclined to go with someone whom they're familiar with rather than someone who's just a resume. Now, when you are in school and you're considering your career, you have to think about your whole career. Your whole career is not just composed of law school, but the community in which you serve. One of the tenets of the Wilkie Ferguson Bar Association is providing not only for the legal community, but for the community in which we live. There are not a lot of minority lawyers in our communities. And when there is an issue, when there's a question, they look to lawyers to explain what's going on in the world, what's going on with the law, and how it affects them. So I would advise you to get involved with those community organizations. I stand here as general counsel for the Miami-Dade branch of the NAACP. And when I go to the meetings, I get asked questions about what's going on in the world and how it affects our communities. Because you have a responsibility as leaders in the community to lead the community. So while you are also getting involved in the legal organizations, get involved in your community organizations. Let them know that you're there and they'll be there for you. Because sometimes jobs don't just come through the legal organizations, but it also comes through your community organizations in your communities. Because the person who is attending that meeting could be the next person who's going to interview you, or it could be the boss of the person who's going to interview you, or it could be the relative or neighbor of the person who's going to interview you. So the thing that you want to do is get out into the community, make yourself visible, make yourself viable, make yourself accessible. When you come to these events, when you come to the gatherings, the networking, it's very, very important to get involved with the people who are in the room. Talk, talk, talk. And another thing before, and this will be the last thing before I sit down. If you go online to Vistaprint, you can get 1,000 business cards for like $3. Okay? Carry those business cards and hand them out. Okay? Even if it doesn't say anything but, Trelvis Randolph Law student, they will remember you. And take the business cards of people that you talk to and follow up. Keep connected and stay connected.